Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 19th Comic Art Collector Conversation Show. Bill Cox here, as always, or as usual, not always, because we've had some guest hosts before. And as a matter of fact, two of them are panelists tonight, Dino and Mikhail. Good evening, everybody. And we
Hello,
have
everyone.
Our special first-timer, Michael McIsaac. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Welcome,
hey, everyone.
Michael.
Glad to be here.
Well, listen, we were talking about in the green room that we need to have a little bit of a bio from our first timers, Michael. So you kind of got to give us a scoop on how you got started in the hobby. Give us your 5-minute or less, version of how you got into the hobby. And if it's interesting enough, I'll definitely have you on an interview show sometime in the near future.
The bar is set.
Yeah, I don't know if it rises to that level, but so basically, I think like a lot of other original art collectors, I started out primarily, as a comic book collector. I started collecting comics way back in around 1984 when I was like 8 years old. Got addicted to licensed comics. That was my entry in, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Transformers, stuff like that. Very quickly graduated to the superhero stuff and basically collected comic books, without interruption, without any break, stoppage whatsoever for the next 30 years. And then suddenly, it's 30 years later and I'm like, oh my God, I have too many comic books, and realized I needed to scale back on the comic book collecting. One, the main reasons were, one, I was out of space, to store them. And number two, just didn't find I had the time to read them and enjoy them the way I, used to, between, family responsibilities, job responsibilities. And the biggest thing of all was, I had spent years commuting to and from Manhattan for work in Long Island, where I live. And they used to give me, an hour and a half, 2 hours a day to read. And then I switched jobs where I was commuting by car. And it's not a good idea to read while you're commuting by car. So comic books, it was like, all right, I can't keep buying comics the way I've been, but I still needed something to satisfy that collector's itch. And I had, back in the 90s, in the late 90s when eBay first started, I had bought 2 pieces of original art at that time. And, thought that they were nice, but it didn't really do anything for me then. And it was sort of like, this is money I could be using to buy comic books. But when it came time to scale back on the comics, I was like, I've had these 2 pieces of art sitting around for a long time, maybe, learn a bit more about that. And a short while later, I bought a X-Men Forever Kevin Maguire page off of eBay. And it was just downhill from there, and here we are 7.5 years later. And I can say that original art certainly is satisfying that collector's itch that the comic books used to satisfy.
Well, it's too bad those 2 pieces of art had to be alone for so long, but I'm sure they've got a lot of company now.
They have a lot of company now, and looking back, I regret that I waited so long to buy additional art, because the first page I ever bought, I think it was around 97 or so, was classic X-Men used to have those like filler new pages that were put in. So I got a Kieran Dwyer page from the issue that reprinted the first appearance of Guardian, Vindicator, Jamie Hudson, whatever he goes by. It's a great page. It's got Wolverine on it. And looking back, I think with shipping, I'd spent $27 on it.
That's like, a good deal.
Wow. Yeah.
Michael, since you're in the New York area, there's a bumper sticker we have. It says, "Sell the car, buy more art." You need one of those.
I need one of those.
Well, but now actually I'm looking to try to start, really getting active in selling off the collection in part to finance more art purchases. Because the comics, they're all over the place now. They're scattered. I used to have a house where I had a large basement where I had air, dehumidifiers running all the time, but I was able to store everything. And when I moved further out east, there are no basements in my town. So my comics are scattered, I have some here, I have some in storage there. And it's, when you can't easily access them, it kind of is time to let them go.
That's true. Hey, Bill, this is when you plug Karmic Art Live, right? This is where you can sell some good deals.
That is very true. I
raise
was
some money.
thinking of that, but see that you're the marketer. I mean, but it's very, very true. The booth setup is available now, Michael. If you want to set up your Comic Art Live booth, you've got full access to go in there and start adding art and prepping for that November 13th and 14th show that I'm sure will be bigger than the last one. We had 4,888 pieces of art for sale last May. And I think we sold around a quarter of it. So that worked out pretty well for everybody.
I can say that Comic Art Live was what did prompt me to get premium membership back in 2020. When I heard about Comic Art Live, I saw, oh, early access, what the heck? And, I had never posted or even thought about posting art prior to then. Got my premium membership, waited a little while longer. And then just earlier this year, it just sort of was like, why not? And it's great. I mean, it's a long list of things in my life where I wish I had started doing something sooner than I did.
So now when you go to conventions, Michael, you're not tempted by the comic offerings? You go straight to art or think art?
I haven't bought a back issue now, I think, since 2015.
So fully on the dark side. That's a good thing.
Is your collection slabbed or is it raw?
No, that's the thing. I have to. There's a lot of stuff that I need to get slabbed, especially. I have quite a few 1970s raw books that I see the prices that they're going for, and they're in pretty nice shape. What I have, but I don't have them graded, and that's one of the things I've been learning about. Like the whole notion of pressing. Books and stuff like that. It's all completely new to me. So I'm trying to get, educate myself on that a bit before I really start. Yeah.
But what's interesting is, and I had all the 70s books as well, is the stuff that you can obviously get a price guide, but you can look at some of the things that have just escalated in value, tremendously appreciated value. And those are the things that maybe 15 years ago, you kind of thought, oh, filler issue, or that was something that you just kind of, it was nice enough to put in a Mylar as opposed to a poly bag. But now they're just, you'll be surprised at some of the things that have jumped. So,
I'm shocked when I see, some things that are like, what, I got this for 50 cents at a con in 96 or something like that. And now it's going for slabbed, granted 5 figures or whatnot.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
A lot of you will remember, you will appreciate appreciate this, but you see those boxes that you haven't seen in 10 years, and you're like, oh, new box, and you're hoping to open up and seeing X-Men or Wolverine or stuff, and you open up, there's the first 20 issues are like Deathmate, 20 copies unread.
I had a nightmare situation though recently in terms of boxes. I did not realize. Apparently, when I moved out of my parents' house 20 years ago, I had left 2 boxes behind that I didn't know that I had left behind in an attic.
Wow.
And I only just discovered that they were there. And oh God, it's terrible. The condition, sitting in a hot attic for 20 years. I mean, thankfully, it was nothing that was like super high end, but still it was, like a run of like Defenders, like of like 50 to 152, my Howard the Ducks, stuff like that, which, it's still something. And it's just like, oh God, like the bags are practically stuck to the books.
Oh, I hate that. Now, does your art mirror the stuff you like to read, or is it all modern? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the art, I really run the gamut. I'm about as unfocused a collector. I hear, the other collectors discuss, curating and focusing on this and that, and I respect and admire them for it. And I know I'm too much like, ooh, that looks nice, and someone's dangling something shiny or some keys in front of me, and it's like, ooh, what's that? What's that? So I try to like stick to things that I'm at least familiar with, and that's good. Kind of like the extent of me having a focus.
All right. Well, I like your taste. James he gathered all the inputs for the show, and I had picked your first piece. That was one of the 2 that I picked to discuss. And I went on the site. I emailed James, and he couldn't do it because he was busy. And I went on the site, and I'm like, that Michael. I haven't met him. I don't like him already, but
The great minds,
you
great
chose
minds.
a great piece. I can't wait to chime in on that one. But I said, you know what, this guy, we could get along. So I like that.
Likewise. I mean, I think all 6 picks that we're going to show tonight are all perfect examples of artworks on CAF that are just fantastic. And yeah,
One of mine's like a gimme. I mean, it's so easy to put there.
Right. No, but it's okay. That's
the whole point of this. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I knew. I was like, it had to be featured, and luckily I picked late, so I managed to squeeze it.
Miguel's first piece is probably worth, in value, all the rest of them combined, and it's
and then some.
And then some. It's a serious piece. So excited. Hopefully, I hope that teased the audience a bit. All you guys, what did Miguel pick? Maybe his own trad more special, but no, it's.
I couldn't do that. But I mean, this person really could have had all 6 picks today.
Yeah. Well, how are you doing, Miguel? We went to New York Comic Con. I think we were gonna. I only went for Thursday, but you went the whole weekend, didn't you? You went Monday.
I went
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Friday, and Saturday. Yeah, that's right. And,
wow.
I can't stop singing the praises of that trip. I met, first of all, so many of the people that we chat with on a regular nightly basis, and that was
so
just
cool.
Very fulfilling to put the physical bodies and heads to the names and the sense of humor, and just the fact that everybody was as nice as you would expect them to be was really fun. It was a nice vacation.
Awesome.
The Thursday at the con was really relatively light. You were walking
I loved
around the alleys were just empty. I lined up most of my stuff that day, and to be honest, just wore myself out. I was a mess Thursday night. 12 hours on your feet. It had been a long time since I'd done that.
Well, we had originally, there was a bunch of collectors. We were going to have a New York art collector get together Thursday night, right? But I think we all backed off because we knew we were just going to be exhausted, and because of the COVID restrictions about meetups and stuff. So. But glad you wore it out.
I think it was a great con, and there's so much more to get out of it. I totally mismanaged the charity auction, which I heard is a ton of fun, and I definitely plan to make that.
Did they have the charity auction this year?
They did, Saturday evening.
See, they didn't. They
didn't advertise.
Mike, they didn't promote it at all. I didn't get one single press release about that. So
I
thought they were skipping.
After I was there.
Huh. I don't know. Yeah, I'll have to talk to them.
Well, I did get, by the way, I picked up some art, but I did get a comic-related non-piece of art that I wanted to share later in the show, maybe near the end, from my Comic Con experience. Yeah, I thought you guys will appreciate it. And what Michael said earlier, he would definitely like to see that. It builds on something he said. Yep. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, Jason agreed that everything was so underpriced. So. I'll have to have a talk with them about that. I had promoted it 3 or 4 years, and I know it went really well when they did that. And that's disappointing because I like to do that. I mean, it's for a good cause, so it's better to raise awareness for that auction than to let it go under.
Well,
the radar.
if only 50 people show up, it's definitely going to get some good values there. So.
Right. Oh yeah, I know. Well, so everybody got the year off this year, and they were able to get some good prices and some great art. But next year we're going to try to fix that, remedy that.
Yeah, or you or somebody else should come on the show and just tell people about it. Just say, hey, don't forget there's an auction going on. It's this time, this date, or otherwise you miss it out. Now I have regret that. Not. I mean, it's in my backyard. Why can't I come down and see an auction?
Exactly. So are we ready to jump into our topics tonight?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Hey, Mikhail, I wanted you to go first this evening. Is that good with you?
Yeah, absolutely. All
right. I really like this topic.
All right, good. It's something I've been thinking about more and more, and the topic is. And I'm by no means an expert in this. It's rather something that I'm beginning to think about. And so I was really happy to have someone of Dino's experience on board to share his point of view. And you, Bill, I think would be a great person to speak to this as well. But what the topic is how to be a patron of an artist and how to advocate for them and how to put their work forward in what way you can, and how to be a good purchaser of their art. And what got me thinking about this is I was speaking to some professional artists over the weekend, and I really got a lot of insight into the process of being an artist, a working artist, and what they have to deal with. And I think the more we understand about that process, the more we can support them and understand as well when a commission isn't working or on time, or we're not getting communication from an artist. I think a lot of us, perhaps as business-oriented people or people who are used to more structure, sometimes don't understand what that world is like. And I was really fascinated to hear some of these things that came out, such as, first of all, what should be said is that to be an artist of any kind, a working artist, is just a hustle in this day and age. Whether it's fine art or comic art, with growing exposure and social media, you really have to work hard in ways that we wouldn't necessarily think about, in terms of, for example, learning Instagram's algorithm and learning how to make sure that your work that you put out there reaches as many eyes as possible. These are aspects of being an artist that go hand in hand with creating amazing images, and not every artist is particularly adept at doing that. So I think that's important to realize as well, but also important to understand why, if you like an artist and you're seeing their work, it's important to like their work physically with the button, just as Nick Brucci always brings up on the show. It all helps. A comment, a repost, forwarding to your friends, when you post a piece of art, putting all the information for the artists in that post can help, so that other people can reach them or look at their posts. That's one thing. And I'm kind of rambling, and I don't want to. So I was also going to talk about Patreon, which has really picked up and is in the spirit of the grand tradition of sponsoring an artist and being there for them and financially helping them out. And I sponsor a couple artists who talk quite interestingly about how their Patreon support allows them to have health insurance and allows them to have a steady stream of income to plan their finances and make sure that they can make art in the best way possible. So that's the broad scope of the topic that I was kind of digging into, and I have some examples, but I thought I'd open it up to you guys first and see what you think about, if you think about that at all, and why is it important to you if you do think it's important.
Well, for me, we were talking before the show, Dino and I, about the IX show. It's a show for science fiction fantasy artists, and there's usually around 240 exhibitors there. And every year that I go, I don't have a large budget. I usually bring, say, $3,000, but I try to spread it around the room as much as I can. And every year I do not buy from the same artists that I had bought the previous couple of years. So because I love the show and I love the artists that are there, I go there with the intent of giving money to as many artists as I can. Even if it's $100 piece, maybe the highest price piece I might buy would be around $500. But I just enjoy the opportunity to talk with them and to give them money and support them in that way. And I do the same thing a lot too when I go to comic conventions. I don't buy a lot of art from dealers when I go to shows. I typically will support the artists that are there. And again, I'd rather come home with 6 or 8 pieces and have spread the money around the room that I brought as best as possible, and leave the bigger buys and things that I do elsewhere for when I'm not at a show. When I'm at shows, it's really important to me to get out in front of as many artists and support them as best I can.
I love the idea of Patreon. I think the formalizing the relationship of fan and artist, to be able to say, I will support or fund some things that are important to the artist to help them, as Mikhail said, it's very difficult to be an artist these days, but to kind of choose your level of involvement, right? You can go from simple things where you're giving $25, $50 to sugar daddy, I'm sure, where you're contributing to the success of themselves as an artist. And I think that's great. Now, what I've heard, and again, I'm new to this as well, you get certain benefits from every level. Either you get some art, or you get some dialogue with the artist. And I think that's all well and good. But I think what it does, for me at least, is it just says to the artist, hey, these are fans that have a vested interest in my success. And therefore, I think they can use those patrons right at key moments to raise money or funds where they have a critical book coming up, or maybe they need some expenses for from anything from creative to personal living, or their families or their professional careers, whatever it is. I mean, I like the idea that they can actually reach out directly. It just opens up the whole original art collecting experience. I mean, everything that we do, buying and selling and trading and viewing art, it doesn't directly impact the artists. It does if they're popular. It increases their commissions, increases the value of their published pages, which they may have to sell. But by going through Patreon or Kickstarter or things like that, you're actually contributing directly to an artist, and I think that's so powerful in today's social world. And any artist that can do that successfully, I think, has a stronger bond, and I think has a greater appreciation for folks like us who can enjoy their work as collectors, but also as people and as contributors to our hobby.
And I think that's certainly true, but I actually am starting to think that even within our CAF galleries, there's a lot that we can do internally. And I think particularly once you have a gallery that's well followed and well viewed, it becomes a bit of a tool in a certain way. You can choose to support an artist and put them in your featured gallery prominently, even though they may not be as well known as other people.
That's right.
You can post very strategically. I have in the past, if I have a piece that I really like by a newer artist, I'll post it with a piece that I feel might get more views to bring artificial traffic to the other piece, just so that more people see it. Little things like that over time can add up. And certainly, if you're a collector of note, I would imagine artists want to be displayed in your gallery. And I don't think that a lot of them are thinking in those terms, but I think some might be. And it's certainly, an interesting way to think about it. It's an interesting way to get different types of art out of artists. I'm sure if you haven't heard about the Dark Knight recreation project, there's a collector out there who's having modern artists page by page recreate
every page of Dark Knight
every page of the Dark Knight. And I heard that when the project got rolling, artists were coming to him to participate, and great artists that I would give a pinky for a commission from this person. This person's reaching out of their own volition, like, hey, I want to do this. I think that's a phenomenal example of what can be done and what can be stretched out. And also then when we think about protecting and promoting our hobby, I've been using social media a lot, particularly, for example, with the interest around the Sandman series coming out. Neil Gaiman is a big proponent of the artists getting their due, and he's been championing Sam Keith and Dringenberg and the whole team behind the Sandman as the artists and as co-creators. So nowadays there's a lot of tweets going out about Sandman from the comics, and whenever I see a page that I know where the OA is, I'll reply with a link to that person's gallery and like, oh, here's the line art. And Neil's been really interested in that and has retweeted that on occasion. And I've seen like traffic come into CAF because of that, which I love. The more people that can see the original art, I think, is always my end goal. And so sometimes when I approach patronage, I kind of think of it in those broader macro terms as well.
Especially collectors like you, Mikhail. I mean, I think half of the stuff you post are newer artists that are ascending or getting their visibility, growing, and those are the artists that could really benefit from increased exposure. And by your followers and you by telling others about it, they're going to discover new artists like them as well. So
absolutely. And I'm super flattered when someone says they look at my gallery for younger artists or newer artists, and there's other galleries that I follow for exactly the same reason. And likewise, I'll protect the artists there's pieces I won't post. I feel like it doesn't help the artist for me to post the piece. There's not many. I mean, probably 2 or 3 that I could think of. But I have gotten, 2 or 3 pieces, and I won't post them because I don't think it does the artist justice. I don't think it worked out the best way possible. So I'm protecting the artist by not, in this case, putting it up.
Yeah, I think at a bare minimum, in terms of using CAF as a tool, anybody who buys a piece, whatever it may be, directly from the artist, should put in the description, that they got it from the artist and how to, to contact the artist. I've seen plenty of pieces from artists that I haven't been familiar with that people have posted, and there's no description. And I'll do a Google search on my own, to try to, is there a way to, if the artist is, does have stuff for sale, is taking commissions, it's great, as everyone's been saying, to redirect the traffic there, no matter who the artist is, or what it is that they might be selling.
That's a good point. I mean, commissions especially will be really valuable to help, with more visibility and with Patreon. I mean, the fact that a commission is done means that artist is actively giving commissions, which you can say a lot of artists aren't necessarily on the, have the on button for commissions. So just knowing that, and if you like the piece and you want to have something, or it spurs an idea that you want to have from an artist, it'd be great to just have a link or some place to call, as opposed to having to go to the internet and try to find it.
Actually, Mikhail, I got the J.H. Williams cover that I got recently that I posted. You had posted a J.H. Williams cover, and you mentioned in the comments that you got it from his website. And I'm like, he has a website? It never had occurred to me. And 5 minutes later, I was entering my information to buy the cover that I got.
Fantastic! I'm super pleased.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Mission accomplished, Mikhail. So how can CAF help make that process easier to promote those sorts of things, like when an artist is taking commissions? And you want to kind of mention that, because it's not easy writing your own HTML in the description. So
well, one idea, Bill, is you have in CAF a artist database where you can actually look them up and actually see all the pieces on CAF and look at the most popular or most comments, etc. And you sometimes have a little bio or paragraph on some of the artists. That would be a great place to put a link, onto their website or their agent or something to allow us to reach them. The other thing is when you highlight a piece, your CF daily highlights, you oftentimes talk about the artist, and
we do.
That would be a great opportunity just to put a tagline and say, here's their website, or this is their Twitter handle, or this, if you want to contact them, if it's a new artist, of course, you can certainly explore a commission or publish pieces that way. Yeah,
because I can tell you, Colin, my editor, he writes those daily featured pieces in there, and that was always our focus, was to whenever we can, draw attention to where you can buy their art, especially, and tie it maybe to an art drop that might be going on if they're represented. And he's done a great job in that. And as far as getting the artist database more up to where it needs to be, he's been very active in that. Whenever we post a news item about an artist that we don't have in the database, or we don't have a photograph in the database, that's why if you go into the news section, you'll see there's a mugshot for any artist that we tie to a news article. So we're at least trying our best to expand on that artist database and make it a little bit more richer for everybody.
And one thing I heard about when I was entering the hobby was, in the past, there would be, I don't know what you would call it, a group of people or friends who would lobby to get variant covers made by different artists to try and promote that artist. I haven't heard too much about it, but I know that there were attempts made, and that was very interesting to me. That if you see an artist that you just really love their work, and how do you work at the next level beyond just collecting the work and getting the name out? What's the next level to getting their work exposed? That's how the classic patronage model started. In the Italian classic Renaissance period, you had so much time on your hands that you could groom somebody's career and help Pygmalion them into society. So what's the comic book equivalent of that? NFTs, maybe you're just promoting someone who's getting their work out like that. But I love seeing variant covers by new artists versus super established artists.
So I'm just reading through the comments. So yeah, somebody suggested maybe adding a primary artist link that could be part of the description. So it'd be very easy for some people to just put an extra bit of an extra link within the
Right.
art details. I think that would be good. And let's see, I'm trying to see if anybody else mentioned anything. But Colin just said he's only one man, so he can only get so many things done. We appreciate you, Colin. Trust me, no one more than me with all the work that you do for me. I really could. CAF wouldn't be what it is today if you weren't doing all that work, because I wouldn't be here if you weren't doing that. So we all appreciate it. But no, I think that, if I don't get, it's funny because like, as Colin knows, we don't get a lot of news pushed to us. We have to go out and seek a lot of it. Colin's very good. He has his, he follows a lot of different artists. And so he picks up on when they'll do an announcement on their Instagram or social media, and we'll try to carry that over. But we have to really kind of, the thing that I would say to everybody out there is that when you know of an artist, you should let them know, hey, a great place to just send your announcements or just directly to Colin or I through the support page on CAF, for instance. And because we're happy to post those things, but we don't get a lot of people that do that. So, so when you're talking, you're picking up something from an artist, it wouldn't be, to say, hey, you know what, maybe you should, whenever you're doing an art drop or you've got something to sell and you're going to make a website update, let these guys know, because the more eyes on your art, the better. So I would say that back to everybody in the community, to let people know that, because it's tough on our side of things, but
right.
Again, Colin does a pretty good job of that, but it's so hard with all the different things going on in social media and art updates and commission opportunities that might come up. Just drop them a hint. Hey, let CAF know, and it'll make your life all the easier. We'd be happy to do it.
And Bill, when we first started this whole kind of Comic Art Live, you mentioned one of the ideas that you had was to have a artist-focused conversation or a group where people would talk about their art from Bernie Wrightson or from, Rich Buckler. But I think that would actually be more valuable for one of those newer up-and-coming artists that may have some really good examples that people want to share. If you said Jack Kirby, right, there's 5,000 collectors who could bring a piece, but if you mention somebody who's a little bit more ascending or new or sort of getting their due, I think that would be interesting for people to see, who's buying their art and what kind of pieces they can share or talk about. And that would be something where you could take that idea that I don't think you've ever done that yet, but put it to context where you can help these artists at least get more visibility for their art. We can appreciate kind of some of the things they do, and some of the people that are watching will say, wow, I've never heard of that artist, or I have heard of the artist, never saw the art, but they can get excited about some of their offerings.
And I've seen a lot of artists have big Cartel stores, and those often fly underneath my radar unless I actually know about it. So that's another avenue that's being used that I haven't fully explored.
They're hard to find.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was saying they're hard to find. Like, if you really, I'm not aware. Is there some sort of like big Cartel database of some sort that directs, that lists all of the artists,
I always find them directly when the artist says, like, check out my big Cartel store.
Exactly.
Do you get that on social media, like on their Twitter or Instagram, or do you get that through Google?
Both. I've done it both ways, where I'll do a Google search of an artist that I'm interested in getting a piece from, just to see, where's the best place, to find that artist's work. And sometimes it's not even always the first thing that'll pop up in the Google search results, but it's like, oh, there's a big Cartel store. What do you know?
No, I know. I don't think Big Cartel has like a way for you to just kind of go there and find creators. I think they've got to do all this promotion on their own, but but again, that's anything that I can do to help artists. That should be a part of everybody's lexicon when they're picking up art. Do you have a gallery on CAF? At the end of the day, I want artists that are definitely artists that are up and coming or published for many years to utilize CAF, and not many do at the end of the day. It's but hey, Bob Layton's been using the site for about 16 years, so I think he's getting a good amount of commissions because of his CAF gallery. But
just lately, he's been getting tons of action on CAF and visibility and commissions. Berkey sold a few of them. He's been selling through the direct on his site on CAF, and probably eBay too. So right,
and so I've always been surprised that CAF doesn't get utilized by by creators who are actively out there getting their work published and then using the site to sell their work. I mean, it's
right.
It's probably just because it's easier to put it on a big Cartel and have a fully integrated checkout and everything, but they could still tease things on CAF, like as long as they managed it. Maybe I
think Brian Hitch did that when he launched his website. I remember he put the pieces up on CAF at the same time.
Yeah, well, he's an advertiser too. Yeah, he's he's a person who's been very engaged with CAF and keeping his CAF gallery updated, and again he advertises, which not many artists have. I mean, I think in the past I've had Gelato advertise for a while, but yeah, they again, I wish I was engaging more with the artists more than just strictly working primarily with dealers. I'd love to do more for artists.
Another idea is you have a designation on CAF of galleries that are artists. I mean, a good example is Ron Lim, right? There's Ron Lim, the artist, and Ron Lim, the connector. But no, seriously, you go through and you see Bob Layton. He has a gallery, and it'd be great to have some designation to say this is the gallery of an artist or a creator. Could be a writer.
The blue check for Twitter.
I would think so. And that way, when you're looking at their gallery, they. And you go to some other artists like who actually collect other artists, and you kind of make that association. Oh wow, he drew in this period and he appreciates this kind of art. I just think that would be an interesting piece of information that would be helpful to know, and I think maybe that would encourage other creators to come on CAF, even if they have 3, 4, 5 pieces, but they can get a little bit more recognition for their not only their work if they want to sell things, but also the art they collect.
Mm-hmm. No,
and then one final thought I had on promoting an artist is to wear their art on the T-shirt.
Oh, look at that!
Very nice. Wait, let me go full screen here, Mikhail.
There we go. Serious.
That's great.
Now, did you make that, Mikhail? You just took your thing to
Mannix Abrera did a collaboration with Uniqlo, but the shirts were only available in the Philippines.
Nice.
But Jiggy was very nice, and when I inquired, he brought one over for me to New York.
I didn't know about that. I'm gonna have to
look at that. Well, Mikhail's in this. I'm sure gotten to the tier where he's getting some special tchotchkes and stuff.
No, I just
and
I do like.
No, they're really great guys. They do.
I love engaging with artists, and just to bring the topic back home, that's what patronage also used to be.
Exactly. And I think from the artist standpoint, they love the fact that people are actively engaging with them, and they're just not sitting in a studio, kicking out
and
art.
In fact, that was the downside for the cons at this moment, is that with the masks, you can't really sit and have a proper conversation.
Right.
Which is what I always enjoyed, but it's getting there.
Good topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've made a couple notes to add some kind of a certified pro checkbox. I guess people would have to ask me for it to kind of assign that, so that you could go and find Brian Hitch's gallery or Bob Layton's and just have a page just for that. If I did something like that, maybe more artists would be encouraged to utilize the site.
I definitely think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they can also message collectors, and collectors can message them directly through the site. That'll streamline a lot of the communications for them, make it easy.
I like it.
And don't be shy to comment on an artist's pieces, even if you're not buying them. Right? No artist hates hearing how good their work is.
All right. Yeah. Excellent topic tonight, Mikhail. Thank you very much. Let's see, Dino. I'm going to have we're going to show your artwork first.
Okay. Sure. Why don't you throw the first one up?
All right.
Okay, so this is Marvel Fanfare number 21, page 28. Jim Starlin, Al Milgrom, Hulk versus Thing battle. I chose this page because I think it's really fascinating. First, every time I see Hulk versus Thing, I can't help but think of Dueling Dealers, right? I'll forever look at that. But look at that first image. The first panel is just tremendous. This whole storyline, if you know, is the Xandu, who's the villain, basically takes this thing called Ruby of Domination to control minds, and he's controlling Hulk's mind, and he makes Hulk attack the Thing. And they go through this 3 pages of this immaculate battle where they're just throwing punches back and forth. And meanwhile, you see in the second panel, Xandu is actually going beyond and saying, not only do I own this Ruby of Domination, but I'm going to, what he says, marry it. I'm going to meld with it and that way I can control hundreds of minds, right? So you can see that Starlin doing his cosmic thing with the crackle and things, trying to get. Then you have the third panel, which this is, if you look at the early Marvel MCU films, the big trope is there's always a scene where the the hero and villain are kind of in free fall battling each other. You'll see them Spider-Man, you'll see them, I think, in the early X-Men. I don't know if they still do that, but they silence out the background music, and you just see them punching as they're falling down. I just think that's a great panel. You see it happening there. Interesting, you go through the rest of, there's 2 other panels of them just battling. I love the fact that every single piece of dialogue ends with an exclamation. How many pages do you see that? It's 7 panels of all exclamations. You got great images, power, Geronimo, good text buttons. Anyway, classic stuff. I mean, I remember reading Marvel Fanfare. It was that premium edition comic, and they always held great stories and great artists. And this was just an excellent example. This is in the collection of Malvin V, who has it was one of the early interviews for Bill on this site. But great collection, great taste. And I just thought this kind of, again, stood out, and it kind of has a lot of those qualities that you look for a Starlin piece of that era. And I just love battle pages. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this.
I think that top panel is just incredible. I mean, the background, every panel, there's no detail has been spared in the background.
Yeah, I love the fact that in that first panel, he could have left the background very hazy or kind of put a lot of dust.
My first thought was, when you think about the Coletta debate, this is a great page to illustrate that.
Yeah.
Because this is where the work went in, and it's just absolutely incredible.
No, this is an excellent choice, Dino. I mean, every panel of the page has action on it, and these are, for collectors, these are the most sought after pages that you can get. The talking head pages are always nice, but when you can get a couple heroes battling and get a villain thrown in there, and like you said, every single word balloon ends with an exclamation point.
I love that.
You can't get any better than that.
And in this issue, there are only like 3 pages of the battle, so this is one of the 3. But incidentally, so Doctor Strange helps defeat Xandu, and he basically takes over the ruby and lets Hulk go in his mind. But then as he transports Hulk and the Thing back to their own cities, he accidentally switches them. So toward the end, you actually have Hulk's mind and the Thing's body, and the Thing's mind and Hulk's body. And I won't spoil the ending, but it's kind of an interesting ending, an interesting twist to a story that I remember pretty well. And I'm sure, Michael, I don't know, you were reading period comics in this period. This is probably one of the ones that you at least glanced at back in the day.
I don't think I got it when it first came out, but I definitely have it in my collection. And not to be quoting the villain on the page, but I mean, this page, there's just such power to it. And if you had told me that, like, Jack Kirby had done the layouts, I would believe it, because it just has that Kirby power, that Kirby oomph that is just so associated with the Marvel style.
Wow, that's a fantastic pick, Dino.
Well, Michael took my first one, so I had to get something else. Kind of pretty cool.
All right.
And Malvin is a great collector. And really nice
that's
guy.
true.
Really good friend of the hobby.
I could tell everybody I did not get everything linked into the description on YouTube before the show, but after the show, I will get all the links to the artworks that we're going to talk about tonight, so you can get in there, look at those. But then, like Mikhail was kind of just suggesting, Malvin's got an amazing collection, so you should, after you look at that artwork, go and just check out the rest of his calf gallery.
Get lost.
Yes.
Okay, so this is first of all, this is a collector of Jen Schlitt. He's in Germany. I actually texted him that I was going to feature this. He said it's like 3 a.m. for him, but he's got this. This is a Witchblade 14, page 16 and 17. It's actually well, let's talk about the artist. And Michael Turner, very hot. I mean, obviously passed away too soon. His art is extremely hot. I'd love to get an example one day. I haven't been able to, but I envy those to have it. And this one I think was pretty special. He posted this week. First of all, it's a vertical DPS, and as you know, a lot of you know, I'm big fans of vertical DPSs because it allows the artist to really create a format of an image that you really can't do with 2 side-by-side pages. It also allows you, and this will kind of blend into my topic later on, but you could see the detail that he comes with this. And this is what I like about this image. First of all, it's Sarah Pazzini, and you can see the Witchblade alien form. Really, it's how she's the tension and the struggle. It's not just a posed hero. It's a profile, but with a profile you tend to get a lot of flat imagery. You can see the depth here with the tentacle and then the thing coming out in the back, and then the foreground you have all that deep very detailed, what do you call it, lines and stuff, and Witchblade armor, actually it is. And then you see her struggling almost like she's at war with it, which I think is a great, I love when Venom is kind of Brock is trying to extract himself from the Venom symbiote. It's not just a happy, painted on costume that's like spandex. This is a living, breathing object that is somehow at war and somehow is at peace with its bearer. And with Sarah, at first she had half the Witchblade, then she ends up getting a whole Witchblade. She still really hasn't understood how to harness that whole power and make it calming. So I love the fact that the image really showcases that her struggle trying to work with and manage the armor. And again, as a portrait, he's interesting, Michael, that chose to do it sideways instead of profile, because I think that allows you to get that white space on the right side and really see the detail behind her form. And again, the depth of detail has just really captivated me. Great piece.
I believe in the description they mentioned that it's most likely the biggest image of Witchblade.
Yeah. I love that. And in fact, Jen's actually had another piece from Witchblade, Michael Turner Witchblade. He had acquired a couple months earlier, and he thought that was his one and done piece. And then this came up, and he had to go for it. I mean, look at that. Who wouldn't? So he's actually the proud bearer of two pieces from Michael Turner from this title, but not the other one's a standard page. This is definitely a unique vertical DPS, which is one of the best formats for really creating that power image that we like in comics.
Yeah,
and I haven't read this, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the printed image did not look this good.
No, not at all. In fact, one of the neat things is, remember, if he had done this on an 8.5 by 11, the printed image will look the same, except that this way he can get a lot more detail and a lot more. I mean, he's looking at 2 pages. He actually probably spent twice as much having 2 pages. He can pace himself to really go into the detail that you can't really get from just a single page. So
I remember when Witchblade, first came out. I think it had even gotten the cover of previews, and it was during the whole bad girl craze, so-called bad girl craze of the '90s. And I remember seeing that and thinking, oh, it's just another one of these, types of books, and I paid it no mind. And then by the 2nd or 3rd issue, the buzz was just like, oh my God, the art on this is incredible. And you couldn't find those first couple of issues anywhere. And I know because I remember driving around to multiple stores in the area. And, it was because Michael Turner, he was just such a phenomenal, incredible artist that he sort of transcended that genre of the time. And it's, why we're still talking about this, what is it, 25 years since this was first published?
That's right. This is, about 20 years ago. And obviously, I think they actually re-released. They re-released Witchblade in 21. A different artist, but her popularity continues as a title. I think she had a show on TV, Witchblade, the series. Mm-hmm. So, but a nice pick. And again, that's one of those artists that are perpetually on my gotta have list, but I just haven't. Every time I think I can make a move, the prices just keep going up again. So, but that's one that I would be very proud. I mean, Jen, I'm sure, is very proud to have that one, and he should, deservingly so.
Quite true. When you mentioned the year, though, it reminded me of something, because I've always kind of wanted to add this, and so I'll just throw this question out to the 3 of you and anybody who's watching about the option of adding a don't want to say date created or date published. Would it, with each piece of artwork, would you like to see a date range, like it was built, it was created between 70 and 79, or would you want it down to the year? Because I think having some kind of a published or created date, so whether it was a commission or a sketch or whatnot, might be interesting, where you can go and just see everything that was created in 1980, or would that be too finite?
I love that idea. I think
100%.
a lot of us collect on certain periods, or enjoy, we all have our set kind of target zone in terms of years, and to be able to do that on the site. And you can collect the data very easily, because you have the archive feature for the pieces that are published.
Right.
And then
I could push that. Anybody who's archived everything, I could add it automatically for them, or maybe give them like a confirmation page to just double check, make sure it's the right date.
And I think it's also important, like for commissions too. I mean, you look at commissions from artists, Frank Miller, for example, in 82 versus 98. I mean, the total art, the art styles are so different. But that way you can see the how his or her art progressed as an artist over the years that they're seeing. And for some people, artists on CAF, you'll have a wider range, so it'll actually show the progression of their artistry over that period.
Absolutely. Yeah, someone like Sal Buscema, you could really just go down through by year, and I think it's a fantastic feature. I track year it was created in my spreadsheet for sure.
Yeah, okay. And all the pieces in my CAF gallery, I always like throwing the year up there for my own benefit, so I can also, when I organize it, I can see kind of the years and the decades. I think what's strange is, before I used to collect, it's silver, bronze, copper, and modern. But modern is now the large. I mean, it's almost 25 years as a modern designation. So those don't seem to have as much meaning anymore. Or they're really more about decades, or around big relevant periods of time for each collector. So I mean, like if I talk about mine being 73 through 86, I mean, that's not really an age or a decade, or it's just a time period that I really had my heyday in reading. So
all right, I think by year will be the way to go. And Jason, you'll have to email me what your problem is with the mobile upload and being able to assign to the archive. I'm not sure. It could be just you, or maybe it's something that's a bug. That shoot me a side email, and I'll definitely look into it for you.
Cool.
And I did notice when we had, I think it was during my interview, we talked about how I stopped assigning into the archive because the modern titles are often not in the system yet.
Yeah, that's right.
It's tough. It's a big job for Maureen to make that import.
Yeah. But the year I would happily.
Yeah, if you have the year, you don't necessarily have to archive it. And if there's no archive,
because there's a designation already that it was right. There's a designation whether it was published or not. But if you could look up every published artwork that was created, in 1982 by X artist, that would be a pretty cool result set.
Oh, very
cool. Search or whatnot.
So, or likewise commissions, you could look at all the commissions.
Right.
That's right.
All right. Twist. You don't have to twist my arm. I'm totally
CAF will evolve. CAF will evolve.
Well, that's not. I need feedback about those sorts of things, because early on somebody might have said to me, "Can you do it by put in there so it's like bronze, silver,
Hey, but those don't mean anything.
They don't really mean enough, and that's why it didn't turn me on initially when I was kind of getting that as a suggestion. But I started thinking about it by year or by smaller date ranges, and that might be interesting. But single year, all right.
Well, then you have the option on your own CAF gallery. You can organize by date of publication, which would be extraordinary. Just to see the history of.
Then we could do theme weeks, like 70s week. And...
Right.
Oh, there you go.
All right, I've got a long list here for more.
It'll be just like my SiriusXM channel playlist.
Exactly.
All right, I love this. This is great. And
awesome.
But yeah, the assignment stuff has just been a challenge. I wish there was an easier way to do it, because comics.org is on a MySQL platform, so different than us, because we're on Microsoft SQL. And so we literally have to take their data, import it into MySQL, which we're not really familiar with, and then do this weird migration into Microsoft SQL, do a bunch of massaging of the data, and then we can make it live. So it's a task that takes Maureen a full day, and it's tough to get a full day out of Maureen. I try, I try, but we should definitely commit to it because we haven't done it since we moved to the new SQL Server at the beginning of February this year. So it's been about 9 months since we've updated it.
Okay.
But it's got an elegant solution going forward.
Yeah. Oh, without question. This
Well,
would
then
solve
people,
a
as they
lot
do
of
new
problems.
pieces, they can list the year of the new pieces,
Mhm.
and they can choose whether to go back to the pieces that are already on there that aren't assigned by archive or comics.org.
Correct.
Because you're not,
And it wouldn't be a requirement that you had to
No,
put a year
no,
on it.
no.
Yeah, because I see George said you might have to list some as unknown. I would almost say that it's just unlisted or like you said.
Right.
But okay, nope. I love it. I mean, it'll have to be a drop menu of dates. I don't want people like randomly, mistakenly typing in
2006.5.
Right, or 1540 or something, and it'll never appear in a search because I won't.
This is how the star date evolves.
that's right. Very good. All right. Lots to think about there for Maureen and I. But let's get on to our second topic. And Michael, you get to take us on to your topic now.
So my topic is basically, do affordable entry points, into the original art hobby exist? And my specific focus is on panel pages because that's, the main focus of my collecting. And, the short answer is, yes, they do exist if you know where to look for them. But I think that, it's important that we get the info out there on where they do exist, because a lot of the attention, if you're not in the hobby already and you're hearing about original art, is usually in the context of, some piece by some big artist, some historic piece has sold for some, tremendous amount of money. And if that's really all you know about the hobby, it can be a bit intimidating. And I've spoken to a number of people, firsthand about this over the years at New York Comic Con, of all places. Because usually, since I started collecting original art, I go to New York Comic Con. First thing I do when I get in the door is I run down to Artist Alley, pick up whatever art, I'm looking to get for the day. And then I spend the rest of the day going to panels and waiting online at panels. And when you're waiting online for long periods of time, you're talking to the people around you. And here I am, standing there all day, with top loaders with art. Or I'm on the train home from the convention and I've got my top loaders with art, with other people from the convention. And I've started, conversations, with different people. And, if they're comic fans, they're usually interested in learning more about it. And, surprisingly, a lot of them don't know anything. And those that do, all they're hearing about, all they're thinking is like, oh, yeah, I saw that a McFarlane cover sold for this, or Jim Lee covers sold for that. And I think, their thinking is, well, if you're not going to be rolling in the big leagues, there's no place in the hobby at all. And, that's a terrible way to think because, A, it's not true. And, B, we need to point out, show like, all right, look, you can have a really nice, collection talking about panel pages, here, without breaking the bank. And this, if more people knew that, they might be more willing to give original art a try. And obviously, that's good for the hobby. The more people that we get to give it a try, the more collectors that we get. And, maybe that's the level that they always stay at, or maybe, as time goes by, they get, bigger and bigger pieces, whatever it may be. But I thought it might be useful, and this is sort of a conversation I think that's, geared to a certain extent towards newer people to the hobby, or people who are on the outside, looking in, who have an interest, but haven't really dip their toes in the water as to, how to go about it. And I thought, I was like, all right, what should be the level, to start at? And I think that, the days of being able to get like $50 panel pages off of eBay, stuff like that, is pretty much over. But you can still get plenty of stuff in the, $100 to $200 range. It's really, nice stuff. And to sort of put my money, where my mouth is, over the last few days, I've uploaded a few pages onto CAF. They're all pages that I've gotten in the last 12 months. in that sort of $100 to $200 range, and in one or two cases even beneath that. And I've put them in a folder on my page. Not that I'm trying to direct people to go to my page, but I put a number of like 7 or 8 pieces in that are panel pages that were affordable. So, and I saw the comment, sketches. Yeah, I mean, sketches are definitely an entry point. But I can say, like, for me personally, and from a couple of other people I've spoken to, it was sort of the appeal, of getting an original piece, from a published comic book, and having it that, hey, this is a unique piece that other people have seen, but I've got the one and only original. That was sort of the attraction into the hobby. So I thought, it might be helpful, to sort of throw a few ideas out there, some pieces of general advice to follow if, you're looking to get, into the hobby, into, collecting panel pages, but without having to at least initially have a large outlay of cash in order to do it. So, the first point, and not to start on a downer, it's just sort of, well, number one, obviously there's certain artists that you sort of have to, put out of your head. You're not going to be able to get like your Jim Lees, Jack Kirby's, Michael Turner's, artists like that, the more popular artists, in that price range. But there are so many other great artists out there, really talented artists, where you can get still, the published pieces in that range. And one tip that I have is to always think very broadly. Be open to pretty much anything. Don't start out, if you're looking, to get affordable pages, with a very narrow focus, because your focus, it might be too narrow and you might miss out on other pages that you'd enjoy. Be open. I saw the comment, outside of Marvel and DC. Yeah, you can find deals with other companies, but you can find Marvel and DC pages still as well. But be open, to pretty much anything, but don't buy something just because it's inexpensive. I think I don't want to quote him incorrectly, but Nick Barucci always says something along the lines of, if you buy something that you love, you'll never regret it. You make sure it's something that you like. Make sure it's something that you are going to enjoy, and that you're not just getting a piece to own the piece. Another sort of tip that I've found, and anybody speak up, if they disagree and have experienced something differently, is if you're dealing with a character, for instance, that you're interested in, like say Spider-Man, don't focus on the main titles. If it's a character that's popular enough that they've supported over the years, miniseries, appearances in anthology books, specials, and so on and so forth, I've often found that those pages go for less than the main title. Like, just to use Spider-Man as an example, there were so many miniseries with Spidey in the 90s, and a lot of those minis, you get a page from one of those for less than you can get a page from, say, Spectacular or Web of Spider-Man, and those go for less in turn than Amazing. So, as part of the Be Broad, don't focus on the main titles if you don't have to. If there's ancillary stuff out there, you're going to probably find, better deals over there. And, I've jotted down different places to sort of search, where you can go looking for different affordable pieces. I'm happy, to sort of run down the list a bit to offer some tips. But I thought, before I go on too long, maybe I'll take a pause and see if anybody wants to, give somebody else an opportunity to speak before I go any further.
That's a good topic, Michael. I think it is very intimidating as a new collector, and you kind of look on CAF and you see folks with, 800 pieces. You kind of say, how in the world do I ever compete or enter that? I think some of the best advice that I've received or I give is, one is, you don't necessarily have to think about a collection of 50 pieces. You can have a great art collection with 5 or 10 pieces. And I think understanding that, you can see a new collector coming in saying, look, I have $1,500 as my budget. Well, if I know I can do that with maybe 3, 5 pieces, that allows me to go after those panel pages that are more affordable. If I'm trying to build 50 pages at a 1,500, you're going to be, you're not going to get much published stuff. So I think just by understanding that a collection itself, and this is why we moved from comics, is you don't need boxes and boxes of this stuff. You just need a few pieces that really resonate with you, that you enjoy, and that you can hang on the wall and or keep in your collection. Second thing is, you're right. Published art is going to be more expensive than commissions or sketches, but the panel page is a way that I think immediately connects them to their idea of collecting comic art. It's got visuals. You can buy a page like you may like because it's just one signal panel, which is awesome. And I think one advice that I heard is think character, artist, and image. Pick 2 of them. And if you do that, you'll actually stretch your budget. So if you find an image of Wolverine or of Cyclops or whatever your favorite character, and it's a great image, but it's of an artist that may not be as famous, or maybe you haven't heard of, if you still appreciate it, it's going to be a good buy for you. If you want just the artist from a title, you may have to sacrifice a little bit about kind of how those panels are, or how good of an image you're getting, but at least you're getting an example of, Sal Buscema Hulk, right?
Yeah.
So I think that often gives you a little bit more flexibility. And the third and last thing is, try to think about the purchases as you don't go in there thinking I'm going to get value, or I'm going to buy something and make profit on it. Go in there thinking I'm going to buy something that I enjoy, and if I enjoy it for 5, 10, 15 years, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not going to gain or lose money. I'm going to enjoy the art for what it is. So don't go buy anything at first from, buy it now on eBay or flea markets. Go to a dealer, an auction house, or even on CAF Classified, and make those are much more safer purchases, because they've already included at a slight premium what market value should be. And, if you have enough if you do your research, you can find pieces that are, relatively in market for their price. And then you don't have to think about, hey, am I getting taken? Because a lot of collectors, back when I got involved, they were getting disenfranchised with the hobby because their first 2 or 3 purchases they discovered later they just got they didn't get the value that they thought they were getting. And a lot of it was just they didn't look at the right places, or they just went to eBay and they grabbed some things that looked nice and they realized that, well, that's 2 or 3 times market value. So those are some things that helped me.
It's so tricky getting started in this hobby. I absolutely agree. Your first purchases can set the tone for the rest of your collecting experience. If you start off on a good note and then you're careful and you never have a terrible experience, that's great. And if you have a somewhat bad experience, but then a great experience, and you can kind of even it out. But if you have like 2 or 3 bad experiences, definitely would sour you on the whole thing. I love the topic and I love the concept of it, because I think particularly if you allow a little bit of that nostalgia factor to come in, which is fine, that's part of having a piece and loving it. There are pages with words on it that can resonate with you very well, that are of great value, because you remember the script, you remember the story, and that makes it special for you. And so the problem with these lower price panel pages that may bring you joy and be fun for you to collect is that you have to be patient. It's not going. That's not the part of the hobby where the art's just rolling in if that's what you want and that's what you need. You take your time and you wait for a piece. You never know when something might pop up on eBay, when you might walk into a store and see something for display that you like. But when this came up, I immediately thought about a $100 page I just posted from Starman that has Guy Gardner calling Starman a butthead.
I saw that.
And I saw that. It was $100. I was like, it brings me so much joy. I can't even begin to tell you. So that's one avenue you can look at. Everyone's already said, if you buy it because you enjoy it and you love it and it brings you joy to have it. at this range of $100, $200 panel pages, you're not really going in to make money, nor would I advise you to have that mindset going into it. But I think we've talked about this so many times. This hobby has plenty for all budgets. There are galleries that I look at all the time where I know everything's under like $250, maybe $500, and it's wonderful stuff. So if you're patient, there's no reason why you can't find what is meant to be in your gallery. There are pages out there that nobody wants but you, and that's okay.
And Mikhail, to go back, to your topic, one source for some of the more affordable pages, at least in my experience, have been some of the artists who sell directly. I mean, I think it was less than 2 weeks ago, for instance, Scott McDaniel uploaded to his webpage a whole bunch of Batman pages from his run on the title that he priced in like the 125 to 225 or so range, and nice pages with Batman. It's not just like background character pages, actually have Batman on them. And there's other artists like Scott Eaton, for instance, posts a couple of pages per week usually on eBay, and they're nice, and they starts with a very low opening bid, and some of the final prices on those pages, it's surprising how affordable they are. Another artist who I bought directly from, Tom Derenick, who I think is a criminally underrated artist. And I follow him on Facebook, and at just random times, he'll just post a bunch of pages with a price and just say, message me, and whoever messages me first, it's yours. And the prices on them, it's at least, from my point of view, are like, wow, he's selling himself short, what he's offering these at. And, and that's one example. If there's an artist that you particularly like, seek them out, because you don't know what they're going to be priced at, and you're supporting the artist directly, that way. But there are so many other places, and it's places that you don't always expect, even, where you can find these affordable pages, if you look. I mean, I even just bought 2 pages off of Felix recently for under $200. I mean, I think most people think Felix, they think the big art drops, him selling complete books. But if you dig through, he's got some nice stuff on there that came out a while ago and sort of, is superseded by the more recent stuff. But if you dig, you can find plenty of stuff. Cadence, the same way. They have, tons of pages
absolutely.
on there.
Cadence is a great example.
Yeah.
I would send any young collector there and say, take some time. And what you're mentioning is just the sweat equity. Put in the time to look for the work. It's not going to fall into your lap at that price point, but it is out there for sure. And I think those are some fantastic suggestions. Yeah, Felix has great stuff. Cadence has great stuff. Albert will still drop pages price from 150 to 250. It's not like all of his stuff is that expensive either.
Well, when you get dealers who have, deep inventories, right? All the ones we know, if you find something that they posted 3 years ago, it may have been overpriced 3 years ago, but it's certainly not overpriced now. And those are some of the best bargains that people can find.
You can spend an entire day, searching Anthony's site.
Oh yeah.
Mike Berkey sold me a Pop Man page for $250. He was shooting
what a
himself
bargain!
in the foot. I know.
But I also think it's important to kind of think about, we're the future of our hobby, right? How are we going to get? Everyone always says, "How are we going to get new collectors? How are we getting new collectors?" The trick isn't necessarily getting new collectors; it's having them kind of decide to stay with the hobby and build and commit to and abandon their other hobbies to kind of fuel their love for original art, kind of like what Michael did and what a lot of us have done. I think that's the trick. And if you can communicate or make it easier for them to understand where the value is, and so they won't get the best deals in the hobby, they're just not as tuned in, but they will feel comfortable and they will feel like their purchases were justified, that they are getting kind of their fair value in what they're buying, and hopefully that will snowball and they'll buy bigger pieces as they get more comfortable or as they have more disposable income. So
and hopefully they come to Comic Art Live and watch all this great archive of
That's right.
information and start off on a positive note. You know, and
Right.
certainly as of today, October 17th, I can recommend Anthony and Berkey and Felix and Albert as great places to start and browse.
Very, very
I was
true.
the one that quoted on my interview with Bill when you had West and I on. I said, Mikhail is like the fastest person I knew from 0 to 60. 0 to 60 pieces he had faster than almost, it was unheard of back in when I started. But that is possible as well. Those people who do come to the hobby with a very good sense of what they want to collect, and they can feel comfortable being bold and going out and acquiring the pieces that mean the most to them. So
I'll go back to what I was saying to Michael earlier. I had very positive initial experiences.
Yeah.
And that really paved the way for me to be confident going forward, to make those leaps that become very difficult as well. And but also the joy that I got from them was just continues to be, and was in those early days, just delightful. It was really, it opened up my brain. I was so just reinvigorated, brought back into the hobby of reading comics and appreciating it and being a child again. It was really a fantastic time.
Totally. Now, one red flag to note, though, is that with COVID and with a lot of people doing online sales and online auctions and online this or that, chances are your first purchases aren't necessarily that same in-person experience that a lot of us, experienced collectors had when we were entering the hobby. Like when you look back at my first 10 purchases, they were like, if they're from dealers, I was talking to the dealer at the show and we were looking at different pieces and getting his or her thoughts on the piece. And I mean, that experience does not happen as often as maybe it should. And I think that's what the hobby needs to try to create more of. I think to create more of an experience where you get to interact with other collectors, dealers. I mean, dueling dealers, if you're a new collector and you participate in dueling dealers, you're able to kind of, I mean, that creates an experience that goes beyond just going on the website, clicking and saying buy and giving a credit card and waiting for your package to arrive. I think that goes to the whole enjoyment of the
hanging
acquisition.
out at a con table and just observing and hearing.
Right. Watching
Yeah,
people
totally.
haggle, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's fun. Just
yeah.
And you learn so much.
It was really great at NYCC the way Albert and Anthony's booths were set up. You could kind of bounce between the two and just have all that conversation and see what people were looking at. It was. I agree completely. My first purchases were in person at a con, going through Albert's stuff. It's a phenomenal experience. But hopefully, people watching this who just started coming into the hobby will attend a con, and I think that's a great cementing that you can experience.
I can tell you, just to digress slightly, one of my first art buying experiences was actually, it was crazy. It was I don't want to say negative completely because it sort of worked out, but it was actually when I first started buying, an artist that I liked, I actually saw had a CAF gallery and was selling his art, fairly inexpensively on CAF. And this was when I first started, and I made up a list of the art that I wanted, got in touch with the artist, and was going to buy, I think it was 7 or 8 pieces from the artist. Like, we established a price, I sent payment, and then he sends me a message saying it's been sent, but he didn't have a tracking number. And I don't get it. I don't get the art, and time's going by and it's not arriving. So I'm reaching out to him and he's saying, no, I sent it. I'm like, well, you have a tracking number? He's like, no, but I sent it. And I was like,
trust me, right?
What do I make of this? And we were going back and forth, and it was clear. Yeah, I think he thought I was trying to rip him off. I can honestly say, not having received the art, it was like, what do I do? I don't have the art. And a few weeks go by, and I'm at work one night, 10 o'clock at night, and something just possessed me to do a search of this artist on eBay. And lo and behold, the pages that I bought were up on eBay. So I immediately contact the artist, and he responds to me. He's like, what the hell? Let me get back to you, very quickly. And he came back to me. He said, I sent your art
To someone else.
in the same package, that went to somebody else. I accidentally combined the two together. He didn't tell me that he got all that art, and then he put it all up on eBay. And some of the stuff had already sold, but some of it was still, for sale. So he's like, I told the guy, not to, to terminate the sale, the listings that are still active, and those came down. And he said, what do you want to do about the stuff that's sold? He said he already mailed it out, but I'll try to get him, to send, to get the buyers to send it back. I'm like, no. These buyers, they're innocent in all of this. But I'd like to get those pages that didn't sell. And then we, worked something out in terms of, making up the difference. But the artist, was also telling me, he's like, I'm going to make this guy, give me all the money, from what he sold on eBay.
Sure.
And we worked out like the pieces that I really had wanted, were out the door. We worked something out, and the artist sent me, he threw in like a really nice sketch, in the package I ultimately got. But when this was all said and done, I was like, oh my God, is this what it's like, to buy original art? That you have to deal with this sort of.
That's a very unique first experience.
Yeah.
And most collectors wouldn't have like thrown everything up on eBay that they got for free from the artist. I mean, that is a rather shameful thing for them to do. I'm shocked at that.
Yeah, at least wait three
unlike
months.
One I've ever heard. Yeah, exactly. Wow.
At least write to the artist and say, hey, thanks for the extras.
Right.
Yeah, the artist was pissed off. He was, because he admitted that he made the mistake, but he was like, this guy he didn't say anything. He just took it.
Yeah, that's really rude. Because we're just talking. What was the first topic about? Being a good patron to the artist, and here's this guy. He got this great deal. 6 or 7 extra pages thrown in for nothing, and he just goes around and sells. Clearly not a patron of the arts, right there. Wow.
But I would think the responsibility, the artist made the mistake.
Yeah,
right.
It's true.
You should have been made whole. At least the ones that were sold or were sent.
We worked
canceled.
it all out in the end. Yeah.
Okay.
I took some alternative pieces. Like I said, he threw in an extra sketch. That was really nice. But and these weren't expensive pieces to begin with, but it was still that was very early on in my original art.
Well, amazing that you saw it, right? Because what if you hadn't been looking on eBay and
I don't know what
you'd still be saying right now. The artist would be saying, "Oh, it was sent, and it should be coming around soon."
Yeah, it was just one of those odd things where I'm like, what's going on in eBay with this artist? And there they were, the pages that I had ordered.
That's insane.
That is.
Well, I can say a couple takeaways from me on here. I think we need a how to get started video on CapView once I ever get my mojo working on that. I think that would be really helpful, because it'd be something you could just, when you meet a newer collector, if we actually put all the lots of tips, tricks, and pratfalls that you could run into, but best practices on how to get started in the hobby, I think that would be a really useful thing to have. It doesn't have, we don't have to like promote necessarily like all the places you can buy them, but just the mental approach to getting into the hobby and and reminding people about picking. Well, the thing that I've written down here, Dino, you might not have had a slide here for us, but the choose two, character plus artist plus image, I love it. That should be a slide. I should have had one of those tonight, because I think that's a really great approach to some things, because maybe you're not going to get the characters you want, but you're going to get something from an artist and an image that you like. And sometimes you have to make those kind of compromises, because you can't always buy a piece that's the best of all three of those things, or
you're paying up for those, right?
Right. I love that thought as an approach to this. I like that a lot. And one other thing, though, like Michael, when you had mentioned about starting out purchasing published work, my first probably 8 pieces of art that I bought were character designs or pieces that were commissions or things along that line. But I remember when I first got my first piece of published art, that I was just in awe, and I felt like I owned the most special thing on earth. And it was just an average Ian Churchill X-Men page, but it was my leap into buying something that was, one of one, published, that, tens of thousands of people had seen it, and now it's mine. And that was like one of the most special moments in my collecting, life. And I still collect both, but boy, what a difference that made. And when I bought the character designs and things like that, it just felt, it was fun. It was nice to hold them and own them. But that first published page changed everything.
And one of the unique sources of pride that we have as collectors is for the non-initiated. They come over and they see our art. You can actually pull out the comic book and say, see, this is the page and this is the art. And they go, wow, it's big, it's detailed. And all. I mean, and this was used to create the hundreds of thousands of copies of the comic book. This is one of one. I mean, just one of the greatest sources of kind of pride that we have is kind of showing people who aren't in our hobby that connectivity, but that connection between the art and the published page. So,
well, Carlos said he had the exact opposite experiences. I actually found dipping my toe into published to be not as exciting. So I get it. I get, it's different for everybody, but for me that was a big turning point, and I enjoy owning published work a little bit more than the commissions I've gotten over the years, just because I love it. Like you just said, you can reference back to a comic book. It's easier to understand when you're trying to explain it to somebody if you're showing it off. So wonderful topic here, Michael.
Thanks.
You can come back anytime.
Thank you.
And by the way, anyone who appears on this show, there's a special messenger for alumni of of collector conversations that you get to join, Michael. Now, it's exclusive just to guests, or just the panelists.
James asked me a couple of days ago if I wanted to be added, a couple of days ago, and I said, no, I'm too superstitious. I don't want to jinx things. I don't want to be added before I appear because I'm afraid then something will happen and I won't be able to appear.
Yep, I get you. But you didn't jinx it.
Yeah.
You've done a phenomenal job, and you'll be a part of the alumni group going forward. So everybody, that if you want to be a part of the special alumni group, you got to just message myself or James, or really Dino or Mikhail. We can all direct you on how to become a part of this show. If you've got something you want to share, we'd love to have you on the show. And being a part of the alumni it's a special club. It really is.
And please hit that like or subscribe button as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
And turn on notifications so you always catch us. So let's see, guys. Nick's not here tonight to do that for us. But let's move on to the next art picks. Mikhail, you get to lead us on the second set of art for this evening.
We'll drop the bomb first, I believe.
Yes, exactly.
This is a Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein play, and it is absolutely spectacular. I will confess that I had the opportunity to see this in person, which is it was akin to a religious experience, because even now looking at it on the screen, it doesn't really convey the skill and artistry that goes into creating these things. I don't even know how he was holding the brush. I don't know anything about how this piece was created. It's so stunning to me. It's carved out of space so effortlessly and so perfectly. I haven't seen anything like it since I've seen this. And I really don't have too much to say to it. When you look at it, you see the textures, and the close-up's actually doing it a little bit more justice, but the water, the rain, the expression on the figure's face, the gray tones that are all that's used to give you such depth through the piece, all of it works so brilliantly. It was truly a conversion to the cult of Wrightson, seeing something like this.
I agree. This is from Stephen F's collection, and
Frisoko.
Yeah, Frisoko, and he's posted many. Well, this week he had 6 posts, and they were all drop dead gorgeous. The Frazetta, the couple Tradmores, so
couple Wrightsons, yeah, there were.
I know, and a couple Wrightsons too. It's like I can't imagine this was one art week for him, but
well, I want to thank Stephen for posting these. I mean, he's a very private collector. He's got an amazing collection. I should say, Dr. Frizzoco, but I'll admit that this is just one of the most fastest, one of the most incredible examples of art in our hobby. I mean, we know Wrightson spent 7 years to kind of craft all these plates before they were done. And to be transparent, I was the one that sold Stephen the other plate that he posted this week, and I'm now in very, very high regret of letting something that beautiful go. But I had an opportunity to buy a couple things that were very close to me, so I did let that go. And he didn't tell me he had another plate, so I was kind of checking a box for him supposedly, but for him to have two puts him among a very esteemed group of collectors in our hobby. And this is majestic, almost, I mean, unworthy. I mean, it's so good, everything in this piece.
I think I had read at one point, doesn't like Benicio del Toro have something like 9 of these?
He had a bunch of them. I think the other one that posted that I had was from his collection. This one was owned by another New York City collector, Gene Park. He had acquired it, owned it for like 6 years, and then Stephen bought it from him. But again, it's as Mikhail said, look at there's not one spot of black there. This is all done in almost like an etching, where he used all the cross hatching and various tones to create the textures of wood, grass, water, stone, and human flesh.
Yes, even Kegel works like that now. He actually etches onto the chalkboard, and to accomplish that effect
with a brush,
it's just incredible.
And Colin, absolutely. You're right. I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I said Benicio. It's Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo, yeah. And I've always said that drawing a scene in the rain is doubly difficult. Like if you think about what the artist needs to do to pull off a good rain scene, and I think the degree of difficulty here is like, Olympic level. This is certainly something that very few artists would even attempt.
Yeah, no, it's breathtaking without question. And I regret that I've actually never seen a Frankenstein plate in person. But so I'm envious of you, Dino, for having one that you ended up having to let go of. But and I know that the piece that you sold, it's phenomenal as well. I mean, it's Bernie Wrightson's just his inking style. He could capture everything. I mean, the ripples in the water here with the rain, the piece that you sold, just the motion in the river. I mean, he could capture just such simple things that other artists wouldn't have taken the time to put that level of thought into. And that's what has always impressed me about his work, is that it's just so thoughtful. And that's why you love it, and why it does stand out amongst many comic artists.
And Stephen now is a perfect pair. So when they talk about Frankenstein, right? Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Frankenstein is actually the doctor. So this is Frankenstein on this piece. The actual monster, the second piece that he has one of the monster too. So now he's got one of Dr. Frankenstein and one of the monster. There's only 14 out of the 45 plates or have the monster in it, but he's got now one of those. So a good pairing. He can, I'm sure, enjoy that paired together on a wall and sipping wine like Mikhail does. And
we can. Yes. The regret is real, Dino. We feel for you.
I'll never replace it, but no, it goes to a collector that I know will appreciate it forever.
And like you said, for him to start posting on CAF and to share it with us is very
I wish
special.
You'd post more. He's got some other treasures that aren't on there, a lot more. So
I'm well aware. It's we got to save something for the future.
That's right.
Very true. Very true.
Just brilliant. Just brilliant.
That was the other piece that we were talking about too. So I just thought everybody might appreciate looking at that. And once I get the links in there, definitely check out Stephen's gallery, because your jaw will be dropped the entire time.
And we're putting the full court press on him to get a better scanner. So
Yeah. Well, what's sad is you don't want to follow a Wrightson plate, Frankenstein plate. So I don't know how we move the show forward.
You know, I did something old and something new.
Yep. So here we go.
Okay.
Well,
this is Daniel Warren Johnson from a complete Deadpool 10-page story that Carl Choi just posted. I think it's an excellent page that works on so many levels. You've got the spectacular splash at the bottom of Hulk ripping Deadpool apart. But what I really also liked is the contrast of the breaking the fourth wall on the top with the artist cameo, Daniel Warren Johnson himself there sitting on a couch with Deadpool. Just made it such a fun, dynamic page. And Daniel's one of those artists who puts that care and work that Bernie put into his layouts and execution. Daniel Warren Johnson does that as well, I think. And so I really enjoyed the motion in his work, the way he puts the inks in. He's so fastidious about perspective and placing everything correctly. And it all really shows in this page. He's moving the camera around nicely. He's giving you different angles, making extra work for himself to create the best possible product.
Yeah, everyone should really check out, Carl's gallery for the other pages from this as well, because I particularly I really liked the Dazzler Deadpool.
Oh yeah, I really had trouble choosing
swing dance competition
because both those pages are so good. So I couldn't decide. So I was like, all right, let's put the Hulk in instead.
Sweet.
And you wouldn't know it from this image, but it's actually a bit of a heartwarming story.
It is a very unexpected, as Carl says in the description. The cover says nothing whatsoever about the story itself.
Is this the artist's birth page? I mean, is this the first time the artist had been drawn in a comic?
You know what?
Interesting.
I think he put a lot of himself into Murder Falcon.
Okay.
But not so overtly like this, for sure. So yes, it could be considered a birth page.
Where's Jordan?
And like my page, all the text balloons, there's one of them, but it has exclamation points. That's a lot of
and Daniel
emphasis.
Particularly excels at putting the
he is
effects
amazing.
Into words as part of the background.
I've always thought, like you with Deadpool and Wolverine, right? They can regenerate. Why doesn't anyone think about just taking Wolverine's head, chopping it off, and just enclosing it in a steel box? So there's no way to reunite the pieces, or Deadpool's, upper torso when he gets cut in half. Put one in a steel box, and how does he ever regrow that? Anyway,
you would be a really great criminal mastermind, Dino. You would be the villain that no hero would want to face, because you probably got a way to get rid of most heroes that we love. No one's thought of it before until just now.
Okay, well, that's for another.
Dino is the midnighter of comic OA collectors.
I'm just an OG fan.
Yes, exactly.
Protecting your back.
Great pieces.
Well, so yes, exactly.
And I hope that you felt like that was a good foil to the Wrightson, because
absolutely,
it's hard to follow that.
Very much so. Very much. And when you showed it, I was like, oh man, it's not the best scan. So I hope he does get a better scan of that, or photograph, or however he's got to get it so he can get it.
Well, the trick is they're oversized, and I think both of these pieces are framed. So unless he wants to take them out of the frame, you can't really get a good picture because of the glare. And so people are using the old scans that when they came into market, I think 10 years ago, I think those are one of these, and they're all like 400 KBs. So they're just
the first Wrightson is not in a frame. Last I saw it.
Oh, the doctor, the one that you showed.
Doctor, yeah.
Okay, mine's in a frame. I don't know whether he took. It's a great looking frame. I'm not sure he wants to disassemble that.
No,
he's going to get lessons from Mikhail on deframing pieces. I don't know if he'll do that with a Wrightson.
I will never tell anyone to take a Wrightson out of the frame just to scan it. If it's archival, you just leave it.
Yeah, you leave it, and I hope he takes care of it.
Maybe you send Scott Williams to like re-ink it or something. But
and Stan Lee to sign it right on the monster. That'll be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you, Stephen, for sharing. And I hope you continue to
bravo.
post.
Agreed.
Really spectacular piece. We didn't even talk about the cover that's Silver Surfer Black #5.
Oh, there's only what 5 covers. He has one of them. I actually commented on the Wrightson piece, and I said, what an amazing day. You have a Silver Surfer Black piece. I didn't see the cover, and 2 Wrightsons. I didn't realize he posted 6 pieces, and he's got
3 Wrightsons, 2 Silver Surfer Blacks, and I forget what the 6th.
It was the Frazetta painting.
The Frazetta, yeah, the Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you.
That was fantastic. The Battlestar Galactica.
And I've already made the Battlestar Galactica image, the show image for the CAF update on Thursday. That'll be recorded that I'm going to post because that's one of my. I mean, I've always loved that painting.
He posted on Friday. I had my piece set up for this weekend. I said, "There's no way I'm posting. I'm not. I'm going to let Stephen have the. I mean, just adore it." And so I felt shy about putting anything up.
Right. Well, he's definitely going to have a few pieces in the CAF update. I can pretty much guarantee that. All right. Well, next topic, Dino, is by you.
Yeah. So my topic is size matters, the joys and pains of really big, oversized art. And we know Anthony likes saying, I love big art, cannot lie. But what does it mean to have big art, to collect big art? There's some joy, the pain. So I wanted to discuss, first of all, let's start with the pains. And instead of slides, Marcus, I'm just going to show some examples as examples. But in terms of the pains, so first, there's 5 areas that I think it's just people should recognize when dealing with oversized pieces, meaning bigger than twice up art, right? So one is shipping. Cost is going to be higher for these things. Materials. The one I bought from Albert, that 2000 AD double page splash, it's actually done on oversized art. He said he didn't have materials to ship that properly, so I had to wait a month and a half and pick it up at New York Comic Con because the size of it is British. It's wider than even twice up DPS, which is even, I'm sure he didn't want to risk it. So the materials are often hard to come by when you're shipping these oversized pieces. Storage, they don't fit in portfolios. They're non-standard sizes. So when you're putting them away, they don't necessarily kind of aligned with other pieces. They're they're cumbersome to store, and they have more risk of damage, right? When you talk about really big pieces, you have corners. You could walk into, you can hurt the art more easily than in very smaller sizes. Display is tough too. Framing is a lot more expensive when you talk about museum glass. You're for those big pieces like these things. I mean, the glass itself actually is more expensive than the frame. And wall space, like when you have big pieces, they dominate a wall, and you can't really have 5 or 6 pieces. You have to kind of decide, okay, I'm just going to show this one piece and hope it just does it justice. Sharing, online viewing. So oversized pieces, whether it's in a CAF gallery or a heritage auction or a comic click auction, all the scans are the same size. You never really get appreciation for how big and immense these pieces are. You can only have to look at the fine print where it says, oh, it's 20 by 30. That's like, wow, that's a pretty big piece, but you don't get that from the image itself. And they're less portable, right? So it's not something you can just put on a stack of art in your front seat to go with one of our comic art meetups, right? Or bring it by a convention where you want to perhaps sell it or trade with other collectors. I mean, when it's that big, you can't really move it around, and you can't just tuck it in the corner anywhere either. And the last thing is viewing it. You really need space and distance to appreciate these big pieces. They're not something you can just sit in front of on a couch and put in your lap and see. You've got to actually see it at a distance. And that's actually why in 1967, DC artist Murphy Anderson decided to go from traditional twice-up art pages, original art, to what we now call the standard size, 10 by 15 on an 11 by 17 page, because he could view the whole page on his board without having to, in one site, as opposed to twice up art. He says he'd have to kind of move back to see the whole layout of the page, and that became standard size art after that became adopted because it saved companies money from printing, right? It could be shot in 4 pages as opposed to 2 for twice up. It could be printed. You have less. You don't need strippers. It's not strippers in the Vegas sense. It's strippers who take out the sides of the art when they're shot. But being able to ship the art. Artists would send the art to Marvel and DC. Obviously, smaller pages were a little bit more easily shipped. So that's kind of, those are some really considerations if you're going to go into really, really big art pieces. Those are some of the pains. Now, in terms of the joys, I mean, it really goes into visual impact. It just commands attention. I mean, you look at the one, if you want to go full screen, Bill, on me, this is a Prince Valiant, about 36 inches up and down. I mean, it really takes over that whole wall. And that's what you want from big art pieces. One of the things that one of the artists that we all enjoy is Art Adams, who all of his covers are done on this 18 by 24 inch board, which just looks really impressive in person. When you look at standard size art, you know, when you talk about really big oversized art, it really makes an impression. And I think it makes a visual impact that really goes beyond the comic page. And that's something that we as art collectors get to see. The comic art pages are always the same size, but the art itself can be, when big and oversized, it can be a very different experience altogether. The second joy is really the potential for incredible details. So a lot of these oversized pieces, like the vertical double splash Michael Turner did of Witchblade, it really allows for an incredible amount of detail because artists have a bigger canvas. Example of that is, here's a good example. This is, this is the Infinity Gauntlet. This is the climactic battle where Nebula takes the Infinity Gauntlet and battles all the deities, you know, from Eon to all the gods. And this is probably the most power that's ever been put on a comic page. The Infinity Gauntlet and all the power. Well, this is what we call twice up DPS. So it's a twice up page DPS. So it's the next size art, and you can't, again, it doesn't fit in a portfolio. It's very difficult to kind of wield, but it allows the artist to really get into detail and create something that really is really powerful. The other plus is it helps with painted pieces and poster art. So the America Man cover that I posted last week, if you remember, America Man 20, it was 20 by 32 inches. So for painted pieces, it really helps artists go for really big canvases or big art pages. But again, from a collector, you're kind of walking around with this big old thing that's hard to carry. The Marvel poster art, the 1986, has about 70 characters on it. That is done at poster size, so the artist was able to kind of recreate the experience of a poster as he was drawing the art piece, and that is kind of cool. You see a lot of poster arts that are really big and oversized. And the last joy, I think, is really about, it allows artists to kind of do these triptychs, or 3 pages or even 4 pages. So example of that, here's 2 examples. This is the Mystic Wars cover. It was what I call the mother of all crossovers. It actually is a triptych with 3 pages put side by side, and it has basically every character in the Marvel universe at the time. You could not do this on a standard page or even a twice up page. You'd have to create this level of detail, and also to get the breadth of the image. That allows something pretty unique. And then this is the Superman red blue poster, which was done. This is from Anthony on Dueling Dealers. It's a quad trick, which is 4 pages put together. And I kind of don't know why he decided to do it, but you could tell he wanted to create the same poster-like size. So the poster itself that was on comic shops was the same size as the art, but allows, again, for an incredible amount of detail. And for a collector like me, you kind of get the experience of having kind of a big piece of art. Well, of course, having the art is great, but storing it and displaying it and sharing it, it may not be as as easily done, but it certainly does pay a lot of dividends when you get it framed or get to enjoy it on your wall, or just being able to share it with friends. It's an amazing thing, and I actually think it's one of the most undervalued things these days. In that, back in the old days when everything was done person to person, big art commanded, you know, attention and a lot more value. I think it still does from a collector standpoint, but the online auction experience or the direct sales, peer-to-peer sales on comic art fans, you really just can't tell how big the pieces are unless you just say it. And sometimes with my oversized pieces, I'll actually show a photograph of me holding the piece just to give a sense of size for these pieces. And actually, to be honest, the biggest piece I ever bought, I had to return. I bought it on Heritage. I didn't realize it, but they said, you know, this is 5 feet by 5 feet, and it costs like, I don't know, a little over $1,000, but they wanted $600 for shipping. I'm like, all right, I just decided not to buy it, and I had it resold without even taking ownership of it, because I didn't want to. I had no place to put it, and I would only damage it, I think, if I was trying to find a way. But 5 feet by 5 feet, there's very little places I could put that, and I couldn't find a Mylar to even cover. I was thinking of putting Mylars on all 4 corners and then saran wrapping the whole thing. But anyway, that's the biggest piece that I bought. I've never even touched it. So, but I wanted to open it up. I mean, if people like big art, it's great, but it's not easy to deal with. But I think as a collector, the scale and the size, being able to enjoy it in person is pretty unique.
Well, if you remember, in my Dueling Dealers, my last piece was a giant Steve Rude detective cover. And the reason I sold it is because it was too big. And I couldn't display it. Any art that I have that's bigger than 18 by 24 is framed and on the wall. And if it's not, I'm not appreciating it in the way that it should be appreciated.
You couldn't get that custom Himalayan paper around that?
I just didn't have a spot for it. I really didn't. And I was so happy
you let that go.
When Jeff said that he was going to frame it and put it up and kind of design a space around it. So that is the pain of it, that I loved the image. I enjoyed having it. There was so much detail in there. You know, a fully worked color piece with Steve Root pencils all over the place. He put an amazing amount of detail in it. It wasn't right for me, so I had to let it go. Adam Hughes, I love his art. He works very large, and it's amazing when you get it in person, but you have to get a pretty large portfolio for his work, you know. But I think when it fits into a portfolio, you just have so many more options.
You definitely do. And there's some artists like Adam Hughes, Arthur Adams, Paul Pope also does, I think his is 19 by 25 or something. It's just enormous pages, huge, everything. Yeah. So Shimizu or something like that. The Unwritten, the artist, Shimizu does on huge. I mean, when I saw that in person, I'm like, wow, that's pretty big. But those
and Jeff Darrow's quite large as well.
19 by 30. Yeah.
I've shied away from certain pieces due to the size when I see, you know, what the measurements are. And because I'm like, I don't know, you know, what I'm going to be able to do with it. I'm like, all right, I'll pass on that. But I actually just bought from Adam, my first Adam Hughes cover, a Black Widow cover that I haven't posted to CAF yet, but I had to go out for the first time and get an 18 by 24 portfolio, you know, specifically, you know, for that. And you know, I had a couple other pieces too, you know, that were oversized that I, you know, had lying around that I was able to put in there as well. But when I first got it, yeah, it was breathtaking. But at first I was like, where am I going to put this? I need to put this someplace safe, you know, because I have nothing to protect this with as of right now.
You can see, I mean, knock on wood, if I were ever in a situation where I'm having to kind of emergency take my art away, I don't know, I don't want to say fire, but like you could see don't take the oversized pieces because there's just too much to. I'd trip. I couldn't go. You know, I'd have to start with the smaller ones, and the oversized piece would be a little bit harder. But yeah, that's something.
I will also say that sometimes for display purposes and when you're flipping through a book, I sometimes I'll go through my 11 by 17s and I'll bless the artist for working standard because it fits so nicely in there and it flips so well. And now with the manipulating it in some way, if I want to make an overlay or something, 11 by 17 I can manage, but anything over that I can't really manipulate too well. So again, pros and cons, right? Like you have a standard size, there's a lot more you can do with it. There's a lot of ready-made options for displaying it, ready-made frames, etc. But when you get larger than that, you really have to take extra care. But definitely comes with rewards. But I agree with Michael. There's pieces I've been passing on just because the size is too big.
I agree.
Right, I don't know what the size of these are, but I'm not going to get it. But those real,
Your
like the largest
one.
Atoya that you could get. Well, the Elemental I can't even put in anything. It's just, I got it sitting over there.
big.
But I got what was it, like a Star Trek Sunday? I'm not even sure. I can't remember the artist, but for Mike, because Maureen loves Star Trek. I'm like, I'm going to get this for it. But it was literally like 2 foot by 3 foot. And I had to buy an Itoya for it. And it's probably the only piece of art in it because I wouldn't use it for anything else, but I couldn't display it on the wall. And I wanted her to have it. So it's got its own portfolio.
It's the only thing. It's lonely. It's a lonely piece of art.
It's very, very lonely. Like those 2 pieces of art that Michael had for so many years before he started adding more to his collection. Yeah, it's very lonely art. I might have put I probably put a Frank Cho print in there because those large. He prints he's got some rather large ones that Brandon Peterson colored for him. I've got a few of those. So I probably slid it. It's okay. So it's not lonely. It's just lonely without any other traditional art pieces in it. So
you need some Liam Sharp art now.
I love Liam's work. I've never owned anything by him, and I always check out the art drops that Albert does, and I'm so tempted. I've got to pick up something.
My famous story with Liam is that I had this giant art, and so I finally bought a 17 by 19 portfolio. The day the portfolio arrived, this huge packet from Albert arrives, and it's an 18 by 24 Liam Sharp. So I immediately had to buy a larger portfolio.
Yeah, that's confusing. When you see the image size and you go get a portfolio thinking it has standard margins, but it's not. You have the ones that come out.
I was like, what does he send me? This thing is
when one of the earliest pieces I bought was the a Venom Wolverine piece by Sam Keith. And I love the image, but it was 13 by 16 or something like that. So it wouldn't fit in a standard portfolio, but if you put it in a twice up, it looked kind of overmatched. So I felt so bad. I mean, it didn't stack well with anything else. And I almost got rid of it, but at some point I got too attached to it. But he has some pieces that are just there you go. That's got to be twice up, right? That's over twice up, right?
Yeah,
that's too wide.
So I was a little surprised when I got it. I don't know why I didn't realize it. I thought it was going to be something like more like the 6x9s that people are joking about in the chat, but it wasn't. No, it's much. I've got.
Is it pasted on the board? It looks very stiff.
It's
No, that's drawn. It looks like pages on a board, but that's
the board he's holding looks very stiff.
Right. Oh. It is. It's actually pasted. It's cut out right as I have no idea why I did it, but yes, it's actually cut out like that on there. So it's it's very interesting. I have no idea what it was used for. Maybe I'll find out, but there's a dueling dealer meme probably in our future with
pearl necklace.
With the She-Hulk with a pearl necklace, yes.
Martha.
But no, I can sympathize because that's the thing. Like you were saying, they can cram so much more detail into those images, but they are challenging to take. And I've seen a lot of Art Adams pieces. I mean, that one that you have is beautiful, but just so oversized.
Yes.
Where do you put it? Because I don't have a flat file. I mean, that would be something that you probably want to store if you weren't going to hang it on your wall. And,
I literally buy Mylars for posters. They do poster size 24 by 32s, and then I can just fold over, whatever is left to kind of create something that's compact. I mean, that you can protect it, but also it doesn't shift around in there. Mm-hmm. But then when you get bigger than poster size, that's when you have to frame them or hold your piece,
or just resell them on Heritage. Right?
Oh,
don't even take ownership of it.
No, I said you can keep it. Can you imagine the box that it'll come in? I
No,
didn't want to
not
do
at all.
it.
Your
There was this
recycling
one
quota for the week.
There was this one Spider-Man mosaic piece. Did you see that in one of the auctions? I think it was a Comic League auction where it was not only oversized, it's about 5
They're huge.
feet,
I've seen them in
5
person.
by
They're
4,
massive.
but it's about 6 inches thick and all glass. It weighs 240 pounds. So I was thinking, wow, that's
I've
a
seen that artist at
$600
cons, and
shipping.
those pieces are like they're like fountains in your
Yes,
garden.
that's right.
Huge pieces.
So that's not only really oversized, that's also ultra heavy. So it's not going anywhere.
Well, this is a good, it's fun. This was
Good
a really
topic.
good topic, Dino. It really was. Because I've never really thought about the idea that, and like Michaela mentioned, you can own a piece of artwork and then you just realize you can't keep it because it just doesn't fit into anything that any way to store it, and at a point in time you have to let it go because it just doesn't work, or you just avoid them altogether. I can tell you that I love Darrow's work, but I've actually never bought any, and I'd seen him a lot of cons, but I always just I looked at it, I loved it, but I never wanted to buy
Well,
one.
he's
because I
so
didn't know.
detailed. He has to draw in large scale. You can't get the detail that he gets in standard sizes. So.
Right. But it kept me from ever wanting to buy a piece.
Right.
I've seen smaller pieces now whenever I'd see them at a con, I remember just always, they were always like those 2x3, and
Yeah.
I just was like, there's no, how am I going to take it home from a show?
Exactly.
I mean, I need to buy it on Heritage so I can get it shipped to me. So, but yeah,
and I think there's a lot of collectors out there that don't even have a twice a page. I only have one, I think, and it's crazy when you get one. It really is something else.
Yeah.
And I've heard the same about the Prince Valiants and the Snoopy dailies as well. They're just quite large. You don't expect it.
Yeah, that's a Snoopy up there.
I saw, I was
19, 20 inches. But look, I only have 3 pieces there. Like some of those, they're big. So, but anyway, sorry, Marcos, I didn't get any slides. I know you'd prefer us to have slides, but I thought the little examples would be equally nice.
Examples from your collection were perfect for this. So, should we look at Michael's art first, Dino, or did you want to talk about that?
Michael.
Okay, all right, Michael. Then I'm going to let you do the final 2 art selections here. So let me get you first on the screen. And here we go.
So this is Sal Buscema and inks by Joe Staton from Avengers number 128 from 1974. And I went with this for a couple of reasons. One, since my topic tonight was focusing on panel pages, I wanted to have both my picks be panel pages. But 2, I just think it's a really really great piece, and I think one of the things that pleasantly surprised me when I started to interact and engage more regularly on CAF over the course of the past year was the appreciation for Sal Buscema that I think a lot of people have, and that they've posted a lot of great Sal pieces, because I know growing up and over the years, collecting comics, it always felt like Sal was being overshadowed either by Big Brother John, or when he did that long wonderful run on Spectacular Spider-Man, it was his contemporaries on the other Spidey books. You had Todd McFarlane, you had Eric Larson, you had Mark Bagley, and they always seemed to get the spotlight. But he's just such a solid artist and a solid storyteller. Especially when you figure most of the work that he's done over the years, he's done Marvel Method, which means he's the one who's really responsible for the pacing of the story. And I've heard it said many times in many places that the hallmark of a good panel page is that if you took out the word balloons, that you'd still be able to follow the story. And I think if you look at this page here, you can, if you could imagine it without the captions and the word balloons, you'd still know exactly what's going on here. And I just think it's great, the appreciation that Sal gets. And I've mentioned this, I think, a couple of times in comments that I've made to various pieces, but one of the few letters of complaint that I ever wrote to Marvel was when they took him off of Spectacular Spider-Man. I think it was back in like '96 or so, after he'd been on the book for 8 years. And I have to say, I took it for granted, that he'd be there every month. And then when he was gone, it was like, oh my God, bring him back. How could you take Sal away, from Spider-Man? But he's 85, and I saw. I think there's a Indiegogo, I think it is, a new one with him doing inks over Ron Friends with Tom DeFalco for a new book. He's still working. God bless him. But just you're hard pressed to find too many artists as solid a storyteller who've done it for as long as Sal has.
Can't argue with you there.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I mean, the reason why, this checks so many boxes. It's a full team page, so all the characters are there. You have the panel 3 is the catchphrase, Avengers Assemble. It's an end page, which is kind of special, like a splash page on the other side of the story. You have the last panel 8 where the villain introduces himself in third person. I'm, Kang the Conqueror. You have in panel 7 the classic pose thigh gap panel. You have bricks in panel 6. You got the power raise in panel 5.
The name of the next Bond movie at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it checks a lot. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to get a better page from this story than this one. It has everything classic Sal.
And when Bill puts in the sort by year feature, Sal's going to be one of the most interesting artists.
Oh yeah,
look at.
That's true.
From his Avengers, Spidey.
Well, that's
Defenders. He did all the team books. I think growing up, he was always the younger brother of John, and I think 20 years ago, 15 years ago, there was certainly a tiering between the two. I just don't think it exists anymore. I think now it's about they're in that same level of artistry, Hall of Fame material, right? So when you talk about Hall of Fame players, once you get there, you're revered, and then it's about the quality of what they're putting down, and that's where Sal actually has an advantage because he was tied to so many different titles and characters as opposed to John, which John had his mainstays. Certainly did a great work, but I think Sal, for a collector, can find the title or character that you collect. You can probably find a Sal page that meets that.
Just between Hulk and Spidey alone, and then he's done so much more beyond. But those two titles, just such a wide body of work.
I think it's 18 years between those two books alone.
Right. I mean, his early work on Captain America, you can't find a good page that, because his work is so sought after and loved that there's, because I've looked for a while. I've actually never owned a piece by Sal, and I regret that. So, but I'd love to have an early Cap page from him, for instance. You just don't see him too often. And this is a wonderful example of his work. Let's see, second artwork here.
Okay, so this is the back cover to Gru Hell on Earth #2 from the gallery of Andy Wurst. And I, once again, since we were talking about panel pages, nobody can tell a story, whether it's a series of panels or even just, a single splash, or even just, in margins of the corners of a magazine, better than Sergio Aragonés. And like I said, when we looked at the Sal page, one of the hallmarks many people say of a good panel page is, can you follow the story if there's no dialogue? Well, there's no dialogue here at all. And, it's very easy to follow the gag, and there's just so much detail in here. And it's just, he's another artist like Sal who's just produced so much, for so long. And it's just it's just absolutely amazing. Just the amount of output, from both of these artists, over the decades, and that they just, keep producing, they keep doing great work. And they're just great at what they do.
And this is Gru, but it's so classic Mad as well.
It is. And we always talk about details. I mean, even though it is a cartoony style, I mean, the details that he put in his Gru and other panels was just amazing. In fact, some of those, the DPS Grus where it's like 100 characters battling a castle or something, those just floored me when I see them. And he can get as much details as anyone as an artist on these pages.
And I will say, I look at his work now like this, in this instance, and the nostalgia feels that I have for his work is really powerful. Like, it just brings a smile to my face, seeing the design of the characters and the dog. And, you know, I never read Gru. I only know his work through Mad. But it's so evocative, and it really worms its way into your brain and kind of hangs out there and makes you appreciate it.
One thing I've always regretted that too is that I've never had the opportunity to see Sergio in person, either at a signing or a panel, because every interview I've ever seen with him, he's such a larger than life personality. It's like the artwork matches the person. I don't know if there's a better way to put it, but he's just a hysterically funny guy.
No, it's impressive. I grew up on Mad magazine and these large groups of characters on a page, full splash or in panels like this. And when I wanted to be an illustrator, pre-18, I would always try to draw these large, groups of characters, and that you couldn't pull it off. And yet, he pulls these things together, and it's like you were saying, Dino. There's so much detail in there, but it looks so simple. But if you were to try to do it yourself, it's just next to impossible. I mean, he's just a master at it, and
you do a crowd of 50, and they'd all be individual and distinct.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And it is such a hard thing to do, and he's pulled it off time and time again. So wow. Great selections. Yeah, both of those were perfect. Thank you, Mike.
So I'm going to show off what. Yeah. So I got to show this off to the guy. I was so proud of it. So here we go. I found this at New York Comic Con. There was a very popular booth of the line, and this is what it is. I mean, look, sound effects.
It's Darth Dino.
Oh man. You should have had that for the second Dueling Dealers episode.
But it is, and they've got these things where if you found another one of the same maker and they touched, it would splash. It would go, boom, and then you can hear the sound effects.
Oh, I want one now.
It's one of the best representations of a lightsaber that I've seen.
Wow, that's great. Oh, wait. Here, let me. I've got it. I'll see you.
This is called Dueling Collectors.
There,
For all the OA, Dino.
Yes. So, Bill, you've never had this on Collector Conversations before, have you?
I can't say anything because I have to be off screen to let you guys do this, but that was incredible. Yeah. Oh, I could have just done this. Yeah, I could have just taken it and put you guys against one another. That would have worked.
Oh, that's fine. So funny.
That was. Yeah, you're right.
But I just thought. I mean, look, with art prices the way they are, when you get something like this, it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of a fun thing to have. And Halloween's around the corner, so I can probably find a way to use it. Anyway, absolutely. I thought Jeff Wedding and Jordan would, all the Star Wars fans will appreciate that. But anyway, Comic-Con, there was a big booth. They actually sell like 40 different designs. I actually paid this thing where you pay one amount and they get it's a random choice and they pick it for you. I wanted the chance element of it. So that's the one I got. So, and I'm going to enjoy that, having one. And at some point, Mikhail and I, when we get together again, We'll bring our sabers and really shock the public. We'll kind of have it. You know how they have a crowd mob where they do it. We'll just be walking around. And we'll agree to meet and just have all of a sudden pull out lightsabers, start dueling in the street, and we'll have someone film it.
As long as I can have my camera there. That's what I was just going to say.
That'll be so fun.
I've got to. Yeah, we'll find many uses for that footage. Oh man, well no, that was a great surprise, Dino. That was not what I was expecting. not at all.
Hey.
And it was even more surprising when I looked down and saw that
and Mikhail
down there swinging it, so I had to bring it out so
awesome.
we could have the battle. Well, I don't have one. I couldn't join it.
To all those fans,
Michael, no.
I still have. It's not in great condition. My red lightsaber from 1982 or something like that.
Respect.
It's not quite that nice. It's basically a red plastic stick.
Oh man, see, there you go. In a sense, that it was well worth selling the Frankenstein plate, so you could afford that.
Exactly. Hey, Steven has that Frankenstein plate. I got lightsaber.
You got a lightsaber. Oh man. Well, guys, this has been a lot of fun tonight. It really has. We haven't been on screen for a long time. Dino, it's nice to have you back. I mean,
the OG, glad to come back and see Mikhail and you, and welcome, Michael. Now you're part of the network.
Absolutely. I think Michael's going to have a lot to contribute.
I think so too.
Thank you. I appreciate
Agreed.
it, especially coming from you guys. For me, I've been watching, this, Collector's Conversation since the first episode. So I feel like, I'm almost like starstruck.
Well, we'll sign autographs when we see you.
Exactly. A couple more appearances. You can have one of Bill's cards set too, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to mention. We actually, Mike and I signed everything, and it's all
coveted.
The casino chip. Wow.
The casino chip's cool. But see, you got to get the real collectible right there. That's the sign.
Oh, the Billigan limited.
Yes, and let's see. What do I got here? But no, it's over here. The
bedazzled version. The bedazzled version.
Yeah, I wish. But the version, all these cards are going to Anthony now, and he will get them signed. And look at, there you go, Dino.
Yeah,
it's there. It's real, exactly.
I'm still the only undefeated dueling dealer, I think.
There you go, Jason.
No, you and me, Dino.
Oh, Mikhail.
That is true.
Okay.
Mikhail is 1 for 1.
There you go. Oh, look at Mikhail.
Cutting up the art.
That is so memorable.
It was either this one, Mikhail, or the smoking jacket one. It was a toss-up, but I went with this one because I just love the moment in that one. So, but yes, you guys should be getting these probably in less than 2 weeks. Anthony's going to get them. He's going to sign all the ones that he needs to, and then those sets are going to go out. And I think we actually set it up so there's about 20 complete sets that we're going to be able to give out.
I'm ridiculously excited.
Me too. I'm
just sorry it took so long. Now I've learned a lot, and when I do a second set of these, I now know what I will do to make the whole process go much faster. But,
awesome. Great show. No, thanks for having me back, and Michael and ML.
No, thanks for having me.
Thanks for indulging me in my ramblings.
Not a problem. Well, thank you for tuning in, everybody. It was a lot of fun. And let's see, coming up, I've got somebody asked about why we weren't doing a Comic Link watch party. Watch party, because we had done one for the last focused auction, but that's tomorrow night, and we had to move up the Dueling Dealers episode to tomorrow because I'm going to be out of town Wednesday through Sunday. So that's why we didn't do it. I wanted to do the watch party, so we'll just have to wait till the next focused auction, which is probably not that far away. It's probably next month we'll be able to do one. And then on Tuesday night I've got Dinesh and Zatari will be on the Comic Art live chat with me, so that should be a lot of fun. I hope everybody tunes in for that one. I've actually never talked to either of them, and they've got amazing collections, of course, and so it should be a lot of fun. I haven't gotten Dinesh's picks yet either, so I'm anxiously awaiting to see which. I told him that they can only pick 12 apiece, so it's not the usual 16. So I'm curious to see what his 12 picks will be for Tuesday night. But definitely tune in for it.
Exciting! That's gonna be awesome.
I agree. I'm excited for it. So again, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday evening. And we'll see you again soon.